How's everyone doing? Pleasure to have you here this afternoon. My name is Ben Cornthwaite. I'm the Executive Director here at Greenspring. We're joined today by the Director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Richard Cordray, Virginia Attorney General Mark Herring, as well as a number of experts in financial caregiving to discuss financial management for seniors and their caregivers. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has produced new educational materials to help seniors as well as their family and friends with managing financial assets. Today, you'll have the opportunity to hear about these new materials from Director Cordray and Attorney General Herring, as well as their personal story related to financial caregiving. At the end of the program, you'll be afforded the opportunity to visit with a number of agency and organizational representatives and receive useful information and materials just outside the theater. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation. Now, Randy Davis of the Office of the Attorney General will tell you more about the speakers today.
Thank you, Ben. My name is Randy Davis. I'm the Central Virginia Community Outreach Coordinator for the Office of Attorney General Mark Herring, along with my Northern Virginia counterpart, Michelle Leith, who is manning the table in the back. She's waving right now. Hi, Michelle. Together, we share the Attorney General's commitment to helping consumers protect their hard-earned financial resources, and we're all excited about the news that we have to share with you this afternoon. My role here today is to help you get to know something about our speakers before you hear them talk, and we're pleased to have all of them join us today. Our first speaker this afternoon will be Kristen Schultz. Kristen is the Senior Vice President for Operations at Northwest Federal Credit Union, where she's been employed for the past 21 years. Ms. Schultz received a BA in Economics from the University of Virginia and an MBA in Finance from Virginia Tech. Who's and Hokies, right? There you go. She's originally from Vienna, Virginia, and has remained in the Northern Virginia area her entire life. She currently resides in a small village in western Loudoun County, along with her husband, her 12-year-old daughter, 5-year-old son, and 2 cats. She'll be sharing a personal story about her experience as a financial caregiver. We'll also hear today from Richard Cordray, the Director of Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Director Cordray has had a long and distinguished career fighting for the rights of consumers at many levels of government. In his home state of Ohio, Director Cordray served as Treasurer of Franklin County from 2002 to 2006. From there, he went on to be State Treasurer, followed by 3 years as Ohio's Attorney General. Since becoming Director for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Director Cordray and his team in the Office for Older Americans have worked tirelessly to protect older consumers and to make sure they're treated fairly in the consumer financial marketplace. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Attorney General of Virginia, Mark Herring. As Attorney General, he is responsible for overseeing an office of more than 400 employees, including more than 250 attorneys, all fighting for the rights of Virginians and providing all legal services to the Commonwealth's agencies, boards, and commissions. Attorney General Herring has made issues affecting older Virginians and consumers a top priority. He has revitalized Virginia's Triad, a partnership between senior citizens and law enforcement that seeks to prevent scams and crimes against older Virginians. Attorney General Herring is excited to be working with Director Cordray on this important issue and thrilled to be back here at Greenspring. Now, first of all, would you please help me welcome Miss Kristen Schultz.
I'm honored to have this opportunity to speak with you and hope that I'm able to provide some insight into my personal experience with being a financial caregiver. 10 years ago, at the age of 35, my brother Brady was in a near-fatal car crash. The driver of the car in which he was a passenger fell asleep at the wheel, resulting in a 60-mile-per-hour crash. He was flown via helicopter to the Level 1 Trauma Center at the Medical College of Virginia in Richmond, where he spent the next 6 months of his life. Brady was a firefighter and a paramedic at the time of his accident, but he wouldn't ever work again. What I experienced with my brother after his accident is not unlike what many caregivers face with their relatives. I was suddenly thrown into a situation where I had to become the primary caregiver of my grown brother who could no longer care for himself. One of the immediate tasks I needed to do was gain control of his spending because he had lost the capacity to make sound judgments. I would come home and find packages of things he had bought off of eBay. And finally, one day I came home to a very large flat screen TV at my front door that he had ordered. So I became Brady's representative payee for his Social Security payments. We got powers of attorney documents not only for everyday and financial matters, but also for medical decisions. I took away all of his plastics, his credit, his debit cards, closed all of his bank accounts, with the exception of one savings account, and reopened everything as a fiduciary account where I could control the distribution of the money. We now work in a purely cash environment. Taking over the financial caregiving for my brother was especially challenging when coupled with the physical and emotional trauma from his accident. Even though I'm a financially savvy individual, I had no idea where to get help. I did the best I could with the resources I could patch together. I spoke with family, friends, attorneys about all of my options. I maneuvered my way through various government agencies, both at the national and local level, to settle his affairs. Unfortunately, there was no guide, no checklist, or a book of best practices to refer to. There was no clear place to start and no signs to tell me what was ahead or what to do next. I just had to do the best I could. I'm excited to learn about the new resources that will be available to other caregivers who are going through similar situations as I am, with the hope that some of the stress that accompanies caring for another is decreased in some way. Thank you again. It was my pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Kristen. And now would you join me in a warm welcome for Director Cordray?
Thank you, Kristen, in particular for sharing your very personal story. And it goes to show that there are times where we can sort of see a situation coming, and there's other times where it'll hit us in a flash when we may least expect it. We're honored to be here today with Attorney General Herring. The work he's doing to protect Virginians, especially older Virginians, sets a great example for other states to follow. I also want to thank the Greenspring community for hosting us, the Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and the Virginia Academy of Elder Law Attorneys for all their help in informing our work to protect older Virginians and older Americans and help us prepare the guide we're releasing today. At the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, we believe the best way to inform our work is to hear directly from people like Kristen, the people we work for, American consumers. Stories like yours are vivid for us, and they help us understand what needs to be done to protect all consumers. Greenspring is the perfect venue to kick off the second phase of our initiative we call Managing Someone Else's Money. Today, we're launching a series of tailored state guides to help further educate and empower consumers and their caregivers to make informed financial decisions to protect their loved ones. When Congress created the Consumer Bureau in the financial reform law just 5 years ago, it saw the need to protect older Americans against financial exploitation and promote economic security later in life. With that in mind, Congress required us to create an office exclusively dedicated to working on behalf of older Americans. Our Office for Older Americans focuses on improving the financial lives of consumers across the country. Each day, this is statistics become very common but very notable. More than 10,000 Americans across this country turn 62. And each day they join the already 50 million more others who face financial issues that can be perilous if they're not adequately prepared because they are already age 62 and more. To support our loved ones who raised us, protected us, and guided us into adulthood, we must ensure that their caregivers have the know-how. Making sure that happens is of great importance to many of us. My own father is now 97 years old. He grew up during the Great Depression, and the tough economic circumstances of his childhood in eastern Ohio has affected his outlook on financial matters all his life. But like anyone else, my father now needs some help from time to time. As the years have gone on, the role our family plays as his caregiver has grown. Like many other children of aging parents, that has meant making sure he has the information, the tools, and the support he needs to make the best financial and other decisions for himself. For some caregivers, though, their role goes beyond just advice and help. Sometimes caregivers have to step in to make financial decisions for a family member or friend who is no longer able to do so. It could be a daughter who was appointed by a court to serve as conservator for her mother with Alzheimer's disease. It could be a young man serving as agent under power of attorney for an autistic brother unable to live on his own. Or it could be a friend who handles payments from the Department of Veterans Affairs on behalf of a brother in arms wounded in combat. For these and many other reasons, an increasing number of Americans, young and old, are now acting as fiduciaries by managing money or property for a family member or friend. Managing someone else's money can be a daunting and sensitive task. Most financial caregivers have the best of intentions, not all, but most. But they may not fully understand their duties as a fiduciary or know the best ways to go about helping another person successfully navigate their financial affairs. After listening to older Americans and financial caregivers speak about their lives, we realized the need to provide guidance for people undertaking this important duty. So we've released plain language guides for lay fiduciaries all over the country, and in the past 2 years we've distributed over 600,000 printed copies. Consumers tell us the guides have proved invaluable in providing plain language help that they can translate into action and good decision making. But because people's powers and duties as a fiduciary vary from state to state, we've learned that more was needed than a one-size-fits-all guide. That's why today we're launching the second phase of this initiative. Virginia is the first of 6 states with large populations of older people that will be receiving specially adapted versions of the Managing Someone Else's Money guides. These new guides are for 4 types of fiduciaries. The first guide is for people who are granted power of attorney to make decisions about money and property for a loved one. The second guide is for people appointed by a court as guardians or conservators of property. The third guide is for those who've been named as trustees under revocable living trusts. These are all very different situations. In these cases, the beneficiary has transferred ownership of some or all of their money or property to a trust, and the person named as trustee has the power to decide how to manage that money. The fourth guide is for those appointed by a government agency to manage someone else's income benefits, such as Social Security or veterans benefits. The guides walk fiduciaries through their duties in managing someone else's money. They provide tips and answers to everyday questions people may have about managing bank accounts, applying for federal benefits, and sharing information with family members. The guides also make sure that caregivers are prepared to protect their friends and loved ones against financial scams and abuse. Unfortunately, all too often we have seen seniors, I know Attorney General Herring sees this every day, we do as well, seen seniors with diminished decision-making capacity targeted remorselessly and often effectively by predators in disguise. Because states have unique laws and practices, our state guides provide specific information about what fiduciaries need to know. For example, the Virginia Guide for Conservators explains that they must file annual reports with the court-appointed Commissioner of Accounts. That may be different from some other state, but that's how it's done in Virginia. The Power of Attorney Guide explains when the agent may use the money to make gifts. All 4 guides have a Where to Go for Help section. I was looking at this on the way here. It's very helpful. A Where to Go for Help section at the back that lists Virginia agencies and service providers that can offer timely assistance for caregivers when they need it. Following the release of the Virginia guides, today the Bureau plans to follow up with similar guides for 5 other important states: Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, and Oregon. We intend these guides to serve as templates for other states to adopt similar resources going forward. We're especially pleased to see many of our community partners at today's event. We hope you will help us get these guides into the hands of caregivers all across Virginia. Hard copies of all our guides are available both free and in bulk, as well as on our website at consumerfinance.gov. At the Consumer Bureau, we're dedicated to ensuring that older Americans, their loved ones, and caregivers can have the education and tools they need to best manage their finances. We believe these customized guides will provide the roadmap to help people achieve this goal. So thank you for your interest and your concern and for all the great work you do every day to help people make the most of their lives. It now gives me great personal pleasure to introduce Attorney General Herring. Mark has been working on behalf of Virginians for over 15 years now. Like myself, Mark began his public service in local government, and since then has served as a state senator and now as Attorney General. He's a strong advocate for all Virginians. We've crossed paths a number of times now, and has been a great ally of the Consumer Bureau on many of the issues we both care so deeply about. Please join me in welcoming Attorney General Mark Herring.
Good afternoon. It is so good to be back at Green Spring, and I was here just a couple months ago in June for the Flag Day celebration, and every time I'm here, I'm always impressed with your passion and your commitment to getting involved in all kinds of different ways in the community. I wanted to also thank Kristen, a fellow Loudner, for sharing her story, And I'd like to thank Director Cordray for joining us today and for choosing Virginia to be the first state to roll out a financial caregiver guide. Director Cordray, as he mentioned, is a former Attorney General of Ohio. So it is great to know that we've got someone at the helm of the CFPB who understands the job and the role of state attorneys general in protecting our citizens and our seniors in particular. A few months ago, we were together at an event in Richmond discussing predatory lending and some other consumer issues, and he's been a great partner in protecting our citizens. I'd also like to thank some of the other groups here today, in particular the AARP and the Virginia Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services. As you can see, Virginia has a long tradition of working together to tackle issues facing older Virginians. Each and every day, these groups and others work to make sure that older Virginians and older Americans live happy and productive lives, and they're great friends to our office. And finally, while I'm here, I'd like to put a quick plug in that my Northern Virginia Community Outreach Coordinator, Michelle Leith, will be doing a fraud prevention presentation on September 29th here at Green Spring. She is here today at the OAG's table. I don't know if she's there. She's waving in the back. It's Michelle Leith, the Community Outreach Coordinator for Northern Virginia. And I hope you get a chance to swing by today and introduce yourself, and I hope you're able to attend in September. I've been an Attorney General now for about a year and a half, and one of my favorite things to do is to meet with older Virginians, or as some of my triad friends in Fluvanna like to say, vintage Virginians. And I'm really proud that my team and I have placed a special focus on older Virginians. We have amped up our Triad program, which is a true community partnership that serves as the gold standard for how law enforcement and the community can work together to fight crime. And public safety threats are always changing, and they're evolving. And as Attorney General, it is one of my responsibilities to help identify tomorrow's threats and challenges, not just today's immediate threats. And unfortunately, seniors are not immune to those realities. Offenses such as identity theft, cybercrime, and financial crimes can affect Virginians of all ages, including caregivers. And many times, older Virginians are specifically targeted because of their age. Far too often, seniors are seen as vulnerable because they come from a generation when people could trust each other. Neighbors looked out for each other. When someone gave you their word, it was their bond, and you could count on them to make good on it. You all remember those days. And the good news is we are working to get back to that time to restore a sense of safety to seniors, and Triad is a critical step in the right direction. I have been working for years to restore that sense of safety and to protect seniors from exploitation and abuse, especially financial exploitation. Whether someone chooses to age in place or to relocate to a residential community after retirement, everyone deserves the peace of mind that the assets they have earned and saved over a lifetime will be well taken care of. In the state Senate, I pushed for and got passed legislation to go after criminals who would financially exploit seniors in their later years. And that's really important, but that is only one side of the coin. We cannot and will not tolerate criminals who target older Virginians for financial exploitation, but we must also work together to educate financial caregivers and beneficiaries on the law, the resources, and the tools available when making important financial decisions on someone's behalf. And that brings us here today. I am so proud to join the CFPB to unveil the very first state-specific guide for caregivers right here in Virginia. It has tons of information for financial caregivers in Virginia on how to get started, how to watch out and protect against financial exploitation, and other resources. Things like how to act in the best interests of your loved one, how to carefully manage money and property, and how to keep good records. These guides are very useful, and my own mother is 82, and more I am helping her with additional things, and I plan on taking these guides back and using them as a starting place for some important conversations. These have a lot of critical information and can be used as good starting points to have these types of conversations, because knowledge is power, and any one of us could find ourselves in an unexpected situation where we're called upon to manage the finances of a friend or a family member. Sometimes caregivers are thrust into the unknown. Maybe a loved one is having a hard time remembering critical financial information. Maybe they're experiencing or have experienced a serious injury or illness. But no matter how it happens, it's a big responsibility with a lot of legal ropes to navigate. It can be stressful. It can be a little scary if you don't have any help or guidance. In the years ahead, more and more Americans are going to be asked to step into the role of financial caregivers. About 22 million people aged 60 or older have already named someone a power of attorney to make financial decisions for them. And millions of others have court-appointed guardians or other fiduciaries. In the next 15 years, the number of Americans aged 65 or older is going to double. And we want to encourage more folks to have these conversations now with spouses, parents, children, or friends. And we want more good people to feel confident stepping up and helping someone in their time of need. I think these guides are going to be a really important part of getting that conversation going and informing Virginians' decisions about their finances. In my time as Attorney General, I've found that when something is really important, you get the best results by working together. And that's exactly what we're doing here with our federal, state, and local partners and all the great organizations you see here today, and of course, Virginia's seniors. We can make sure that more Virginians enjoy retirement without fear. So once again, I'd like to thank Director Cordray for hosting this event today. I'm so happy he chose Virginia to unveil the first state guide, although I'm sure it was an easy decision because we have one of the greatest, most active groups of older Americans in the country here in Virginia. Our vintage Virginians are hungry for knowledge, and we are working together to make a difference.
Thank you, General. I can second everything he said because, as Michelle knows, I got a phone call on my office-issued phone this morning while I was here telling me I'd won a free trip to the Caribbean. And no, I did not return that call, and don't you return that call either. That wraps up the speaking portion of our program this afternoon. Now we'd like to invite each and every one of you to spend some time visiting our information tables staffed by the AARP, the Attorney General's Office, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the Virginia Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services. They're out in the hallway. Please stop by as you leave and get some valuable information. Thank you all for attending this afternoon.